gmail.com.
We must wage what I have called total war against public enemy number one.
I support a change in law to end federal criminal penalties for possession of up to 1 ounce of marijuana.
That marijuana, pot, grass, whatever you want to call it, is probably the most dangerous drug.
Some think there won't be room for them in jail. We'll make room.
I experimented with marijuana a time or two, and I didn't like it and didn't inhale.
And one major responsibility is to encourage people to use less drugs.
Entirely legitimate topic for debate.
Radical Rant.
Fine! It's legal now! Now get back in your closet. That's the attitude that seems to be coming from the lawmakers in Washington, D.C., who just officially today banned any sort of pot clubs, private pot clubs. As in, I have a private business establishment where I'm not going to let just anybody in. I'm going to card them. I'm going to make sure they're all adults. And we as adults are going to hang out and smoke the marijuana that Washington, D.C. residents legalized by 71%. 70%. Close. It's up there. So this just leads me to believe, where the hell are we supposed to use our marijuana if we're in Washington, D.C.? Can't use it in the hotels because, of course, that's banned by most of the hotels. No smoking. Can't use it in public. Can't use it in the parks. Can't use it on any federal land whatsoever. About 26% of which is Washington, D.C. is federal land. Can't use it in a private club now. So what? We're just supposed to get back in our closets. And this is the attitude, because I see this in another quote that came from one of the councilmen here. Let me see if I can find this quote. I have to bring this up in my news feed here. Talked about this yesterday, but it was this quote from this councilman talking about, I voted to make it so that fewer people would be arrested for marijuana. Here it is. I wanted fewer DC residents going to jail, not necessarily more DC residents being able to consume marijuana. And this is one of the, I would say, unintended consequences that we've gotten out of our campaigns to legalize marijuana. So much of it in Washington, D.C. focused on the racial disparity in marijuana arrests. And so now these people feel like, okay, we've ended that arrest thing, but it leaves out the fact that now that it's a legal product, a legal substance for people to use, they're going to want to use it in social situations with one another. And this is something that is really funny to me, given the past couple of rants I've done over the weeks. Remember when we talked about Richard Nixon and Art Linkletter and that idea that people smoke marijuana to get high, but people drink just to be social? Well, if that's the case, why are we all clamoring for a pot bar? Why is it that we want a pub so badly if all we want to do is get high? If it was just about getting high, we'd take our legal weed back to our house, sit in the closet and smoke it like we always had. No, what legalization means to us is an end of our criminal status, a beginning of our equal status with beer drinkers. And this in juxtaposition with what the DC police chief told the cannabist. DC Police Chief Kathy Lanier stood by District Mayor Muriel Bowser in this legalization fight and said that alcohol is a bigger concern to public safety. Quote, marijuana smokers are not going to attack and kill a cop. They just want to get a bag of chips and relax. Alcohol is a much bigger problem. End quote. Your police chief says that alcohol is a much bigger problem. And yet there are numerous locations in Washington, D.C. where one may sit in public with other members of the public in a place open to the public, many times in a place visible to the public, on an outdoor patio, for example, where this more dangerous drug, most dangerous drug in American society is allowed to be openly consumed. There is no logical reason whatsoever that now marijuana is legal, why we can't at least have some place to use it together. We accept without even blinking the fact that every downtown district in the United States has buildings where the express purpose of those buildings is to serve an intoxicating drug called ethanol. And these buildings have parking lots attached to them for the express purpose of people driving to these buildings for the intoxication they are to receive from alcohol. And then we can trust them. We can just trust them to drive home and designate a driver or call a cab. But with marijuana, the safest drug of the recreational drugs, we have to condone it. We have to condemn it to just being in our homes. We can't possibly have a place where we can gather and use cannabis. Now, this is going to have a severe backlash from the cannabis community. Adam Eidinger, one of the leading advocates out there in Washington, D.C., is already talking about putting together public smoke out protests of this. And of course, the D.C. Council is begging them not to. Oh, please, please don't go out and publicly protest. Why, it might make Congress mad. That'll make it a whole lot tougher for us to get further reforms. Well, yeah, it might. It might, but I'll tell you, this stuff doesn't change until somebody activates for this, until somebody agitates and gets people out of their seats and causes some commotion and causes some heartache and causes some consternation among the people in power that don't want to see this changed. There needs to be in all of the legal jurisdictions, not just Washington, D.C., but in Colorado, Washington, Oregon, and Alaska, there needs to be a recognition that providing us with vapor bars, vapor lounges, pot clubs, whatever you want to call them, is what they want. It's in their best interest. They don't want to see a whole bunch of public consumption, right? Well, you're going to get a bunch of public consumption, either in the forms of protest, overt protest, or people just deciding, screw it, I'm going to light up here around the corner, hopefully nobody's looking. You're going to get plenty of that if you don't give people a place to go. You have these concerns about people overdosing on edibles. People might not understand how potent these products are. If they have a place to go to use these products, to be in the company of other people who use these products, to be in a place where public service advertising could reach them on how to properly use these products, we would see a lot fewer of those overdoses. We see these concerns about making sure that we undercut the black market, make sure that the black market is not a problem. If you don't give people a place to go smoke weed, they're going to find a place to go smoke weed. And where there are stoners gathered, there will be someone who will sell them weed. And they will undercut. And people will think it's worth it. Not only, hey, bought a bag, not only is it cheaper than the dispensary, but we can hang out in this guy's place and smoke it. I can imagine very soon people kind of just opening up their homes, because again, this prohibition the DC Council passed only applies to private businesses. It doesn't apply to residences. So if you want some of those tonier Washington DC neighborhoods to have a whole lot of foot traffic of some pot smelling people going back and forth to hang out at the cool kids loft, then sure, don't give people a public place to smoke pot. Now I can tell you, if the public place to smoke pot has video games and a bar and some food that I can get to eat and other people to hang out with, I'd much rather go there than some kid's loft in Georgetown. But if that's the only choice, that's where I'm going to end up. You need to understand, if you are a politician in any of these places, that we, the marijuana using community, don't see this legalization as some sort of favor you've done for us. Aw, gee, thanks for not oppressing us anymore. No, we see this as just the beginning of establishing and reestablishing the rights that we have as Americans that date back to prior to the founding of this country. We look at this as taking back our hemp heritage that dates back to 1611. Our medical marijuana heritage that dates back to the 1850s. Our recreational marijuana heritage that dates back to the early 1900s. We're just re-legalizing marijuana. You haven't done us any favors, and we don't feel any sort of need to kowtow to your need to make nice with Congress or to play nice with others. We see this as a beginning of the reestablishment of our rights. And we're a patient people. We've stood by for a long time now. We don't need everything all at once, but we need to know that that's the direction we're going. That we are going toward a direction where, like the campaign slogan said, and people voted for, that marijuana is treated like alcohol. No more, no less. Don't expect special privileges. Just give us the same damn respect you give anybody who's drinking wine, shooting whiskey, or down in a cold beer. That's all the time we got for Hour 1. Thanks for joining us. Stay tuned for Hour 2, Toker Talk Radio. We're hanging out with Wiz Khalico in the studio. Also got some other great stories to bring to you, including me and the drug czar actually agree on something. Oh my God. Stay tuned for that. Also, The Onion has gotten a hold of the stoned bunny phenomenon. It's going to be a good one. For Wiz Khalico, I'm Radical Russ. Thanks for joining us. Until next time, take care of each other, tokers.
This is the Russ Belville Show. The Russ Belville Show is blogging and podcasting daily at radicalruss.com.
You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you